Hi, today we're going to talk about the three biggest mistakes that investors make when they have commercial properties inspected. And it would be four. I'm going to leave off the big, main, obvious one, which is not doing an inspection on the property. Obviously, if you're going to invest in a commercial property, this is going to be a long-term part of your commercial portfolio. You want it to be a great building, something that's going to build cash flow and create equity and be able to give you the opportunity to do all sorts of fun things in your life, like maybe quit your job if you're working a job now. And so you definitely want to have the property inspected. So you should probably hire a professional inspector to do that, or at the very least find a general contractor that knows construction and building code that can walk through the property with you. But in most cases, you're going to hire an actual inspector. And in some cases with larger properties, yes, it is going to cost a little bit of money to get this done. Well worth it for you to do that. So here are the three biggest mistakes that people make when inspecting commercial property. Mistake number one. Who hires the inspector? Does that make a difference? Yes, it does. Here's what I'm talking about. As the buyer, you're probably paying for the inspection in most cases. But if you're working with a broker, either your broker, your buyer's broker, or the listing broker, I don't care which broker it is, that broker is probably going to know someone that could come out and inspect the property. In most cases, the inspector that comes out is going to do a qualified inspection of the property. They're going to let you know what's really wrong with the property, and this isn't something that happens in every case by any means. But I have seen situations where the inspector has an allegiance to the broker to keep the deal in place and to have the deal go through. And so if you're the buyer of a small apartment building and you go in and use the inspector that was referred to you by your broker, again, I'm not saying that this in every single case, but I have seen it happen, that inspector is going to do the inspection in a way that helps out the broker more than they help out you. You want someone who's going to go in there and uncover every last thing. You don't want someone who's going to minimize things. I've seen inspections done where they'll come across something, they'll say, oh yeah, this is common in properties of this age, this will be real easy for you guys to fix, it's not a big deal at all. It turns out that it's a big deal when you multiply it by 20 units or whatever. It can be a very big deal if you have that problem in all the units. So my preference is to find my own inspector. Maybe it's an inspector referred to me through another contact and another relationship you have with a different broker that's not involved in this transaction, that is waiting to get their commission out of it. And ideally, you'll develop a relationship with one or more inspectors where when you do have a property under contract, you can just reach out and get your property inspector to go inspect the property rather than your broker's property inspector. Again, don't get mad at me, don't say, what are you talking about? I'm an inspector, I've done this for 20 years, I'm going to find everything. I totally understand that. I'm just letting you know that that is an issue and it's a mistake that some people make not knowing about that. The second thing when having a commercial property inspected is what I call the big disclaimer. So the mistake that people make when they have a commercial property inspected is they don't understand that the property inspector is finding what they can or what they see or what they're able to find, but that there's this big disclaimer on the inspection agreement. If you look at it, you'll see it there, where it basically says that this is what we found, and if there's anything that we didn't find, you have to hold us harmless. It's not our fault. We looked, we inspected, we did our best to find everything, but there's a chance that there may be things that we missed that could be substantial, and if we did miss them, then it's not our fault and you hold us completely harmless for that. So not a big deal, but again, some people think that whether it's a house or a commercial property, when they have it inspected, that somehow the inspector has this ability to see every single last thing that's wrong with the property, which obviously they can't. Oftentimes there's maybe hidden things, or there's systems and things that might end up breaking, you know, the week after you buy a property. They don't have any way of knowing that. Of course, you can check out the age of the major component systems in the property and see how old they are, the roof, the HVAC system, and the appliances, things like that, major things. So that's something to keep aware of. So number 3, as far as the 3 biggest mistakes that people make with commercial properties, is you're going to want to see all the units. Now, it's interesting when you're going through, you know, an 18-unit apartment building. It's probably not a surprise that there's a tenant that never lets anyone in their unit, or they don't happen to have the keys, or they can't get in, or the person was supposed to be home and they're not there, so you can't get in to see that one right now. Do not buy a commercial property. Do not complete your inspection without going through you and or your inspector. And ideally, you should be there with the inspector going through the property with them. But you really need to go through all of the units no matter what. I've run into properties like this where the seller will come up with some excuse or whatever. Oh, we'll get into that later, or we can't, whatever reason, you know, I don't have the key, or it's not working. You could call a locksmith, and a locksmith come in there and could get you in. Once you've owned property, or you know, your property manager probably has some tricks where they could get through those locks. They might have to be replaced after they drill them out or whatever. But you definitely need to go in and see all of the units so you know what you're getting into. Another thing that's related to this is that when you are viewing a property and going through the inspection, if the seller knows what they're doing, or if the broker knows what they're doing, they're going to take you through the units in a predetermined order. They're going to have figured out which, and you can do this when you're selling a property. In fact, I recommend it. As the buyer, you need to be aware of this strategy. The seller and or the broker looks through the units to find out which ones are in great shape, which ones are in okay shape, and which ones are in really bad shape. And generally what they're going to do is they're going to take you through, if they can, one of the pretty good looking units as the first one, so your first impression is a good one. In the middle of the inspection, they're going to take you through you know, the okay units, mix in some of the really bad units right in the middle, and then they're going to finish up with a few more of the okay units, and finally your last one that you see should be, if they're doing this strategy correctly, should be one of the very nicest units that you see in the sequence and order that you're going through the property. So this isn't a mistake as much as it is just a strategy that's used sometimes, and something to be aware of when you are looking through commercial properties, that the units might be sequenced in the order that you go through them, so that you're not seeing, for example, the worst of the worst that would leave you with that impression if they were the last ones that you saw. So there you have the 3 biggest mistakes that people make when they are inspecting commercial properties. I'm Peter Conti. I'm the co-author of Commercial Real Estate Investing for Dummies. If you don't have your copy yet, go ahead and check the links down below. There's a link down below where you can get your free copy of Commercial Real Estate Investing for Dummies. The reason is I bought this book for you. All you need to do is pay for the shipping, and I'll ship you your copy out. On Amazon right now, these are selling for about $19. So that's my gift to you. Hope you found this video helpful, and good luck with all your investing.